Hey, what's up? It's Soup here, and who's excited for 9.2? This video is going to share how I'm preparing for the tier by evaluating each Mage Spec's damage profile and how well that applies to the new bosses in the raid as well as Mythic Plus in general. Unfortunately, things aren't simple enough for there to just be one best spec, but I am very much looking forward to progging as potentially all three specs. I am currently working on a Mage Fundamentals guide for each spec to help anyone who's swapping to Mage or needs a refresher going into the tier, and that should be out in the next 2 weeks. I will also be making raid fight guides and more advanced mage class guides down the road, so if you'd like to be notified when those are released, then make sure to subscribe. There's a lot of exciting stuff to go over, so let's get going. Quick disclaimer, my evaluations of Frost are based on Icy Propulsion working properly again, but do not take into account any potential future nerfs. Starting in Mythic Raid, there have only been 8 bosses tested, so I can't speak to the last 3, but I'm gonna rank each mage spec tier list style on how well I think the damage profile applies to each boss. First up is Vigilant Guardian. This fight has a lot of constant AoE as well as priority damage targets and stacked cleave. Due to the low movement of both enemies and the raid on this fight, I think that Necro Frost has a lot of potential to be very strong. Kyrian Arcane is my second pick because there are priority targets to funnel damage into, and Barrage Cleave was very easy to take advantage of in testing. Fire is third because both Frost and Arcane have scaled better in AoE than Fire has in testing. Next is Dausegni, or however you say that. This fight is mostly 2 target stacked cleave with a large absorb shield that needs to be broken periodically throughout the fight. The 2 target cleave suggests to me that Necro Frost will probably be best on this fight. I wasn't able to test this boss, but from what I've seen, it looks like there's not a whole lot of movement, which also supports that Necro Frost has a lot of potential. The thing that has yet to be seen is how much burst damage is going to be needed to break through the shields because they happen somewhat frequently. I think that Kyrian Arcane has the second best potential on this fight because of Barrage funnel from 2 targets and having strong bursts that can be lined up with the absorb shield if needed. And Venthyr Fire is third, but I think it does have potential on this fight if the absorb shield becomes the primary focus because combustion is still a very strong single target cooldown. On to Skolex. This is another fight that I wasn't able to test, but based on what I've seen, it doesn't look like there's a lot of movement and it's pure single target. I'm going to rate Necro Frost as best on this fight because of the uptime and the chance to extend the Deathborn ramp, with Venthyr Fire as a close second. Kyrian Arcane has not performed consistently well for me on single target, mainly due to crit RNG, so it would be third for this fight. Next up is Zymox round 2. This fight has single target, priority ad funnel, and large AoE. My best pick for this fight is Kyrian Arcane because of the ad funnel on the platforms. I think Fire is second as either Venthyr or Night Fae because both a single target or AoE focused damage profile might be effective on this fight depending on how the strats play out. And Frost is third because of the movement with teleporters and rings as well as platform hopping. Alright, on to Prototype Pantheon. This fight has a mix of 2 to 3 target cleave in the first phase, 2 target cleave in the second phase, and 4 to 5 target cleave in the final phase. I think this is the fight that Necro Frost has the biggest potential to excel at. There can be some forced movement that puts you out of range of targets, but I think the main focus on this fight is going to be the final phase, and with the right uptime, the Deathborn ramp could be insanely good. My second pick is Kyrian Arcane for similar reasons as Necro Frost. The consistent Barrage Cleave works very well with the Kyrian Arcane damage profile during Magi, but it lacks the sustained AoE that you'd find from Frost, which might cause it to fall behind. Fire is third because I don't think the damage profile fits very well into this fight. Next up is Lehuvum. Lehuvum has pretty large raid movement and has a mix of single target, 2 to 3 target cleave, and large AoE. The target counts are dependent on how the ads are dealt with in the intermission, so things might change as the strats play out. My top pick for this fight is Kyrian Arcane because it performed decently well in single target in testing. It can take advantage of the short-lived ad funnel that comes out of the intermission, and I think it'll deal better damage to the AoE ads than Frost or Fire because they don't live that long. My second pick is Frost as either Venthyr or Necro because while there is heavy movement, there is a raid-wide knockback mechanic that will probably be used to help mitigate this, and Frost does very well with 2 targets. If there are good Deathborn ramp windows, the Necro Frost has the potential to be very good at this fight. And Fire is third because of the variable damage profile that looks to be needed on this fight, and I don't think Fire does very well at that. Moving on to Halandris. This is a single target fight because the pylons are too far away from the boss to be included in any type of cleave. It also has heavy frequent movement. I think Venthyr Fire will be the best on this fight because of the mobility and the on-demand burst for killing pylons. My second pick would be Venthyr Frost because based on testing, I don't think a Deathborn ramp would work very well in this fight. And Kyrian Arcane is my third choice because the movement is just awful. It's also going to be pretty important to put damage into the boss during the intermissions, which is constant movement and a raid-wide knockback, so fire just makes the most sense to me. The last boss that was tested was Anduin. This fight has cleave in the down phase, large AoE in the up phase, and what looks like large AoE with priority ad funnel in the first intermission. Because of the short-lived ad spawns, I think that Kyrian Arcane will be the strongest on this fight. I think Necro Frost has the second best potential in this fight because the movement in the first phase wasn't too rough in testing, and Deathborn ramps seem like they might be realistic. Fire is third because it doesn't take advantage of the funnel at all. It's important to note that I didn't see very much of this fight at all, so as the phases play out, things could change. Moving on to Mythic Plus. I think the two best specs for keys are going to be Frost as either Night Fae or Necro, and Kyrian Arcane. The Kyrian Arcane damage profile excels with 3 to 5 targets, and I think that the 10-second 200% cooldown reduction buff from the encrypted affix has a lot of potential for Kyrian Arcane because of how many short cooldowns it has, specifically because of how strong Radiant Spark will be with Harmonic Echo. Frost still has big potential in AoE thanks to Blizzard reverting the Icy Propulsion nerf, but we do know that more AoE focused nerfs are on the way, so it's really hard to make a judgment call right now. The Night Fae Legendary will be amazing for Frost, and the top end potential of Necro is still pretty insane given how the Necro Legendary works. I think Fire could have some potential because of the cooldown reduction buff, but the AoE damage from Fire was fairly underwhelming in testing on the PTR. The good news is I think all three specs are viable for most content, but the damage profile will dictate which spec is best for what. Factors such as where your raid needs priority damage and your raid's composition can impact which spec would be the best choice for you. I'm looking forward to seeing how the boss strats play out given how much flexibility we have, as well as what group compositions pull ahead for Mythic Plus because of how creative we're going to be able to be with the encrypted affix. If you need to catch up on 9.2 PTR testing, then check out this playlist, and remember, never stop improving. Peace!